Good day, everyone, and welcome to the Q&A, not Q&A podcast, sorry. You guys were just saying it. Inverted Orthodoxy podcast. I am Blake, and I am with Kyle and Doug. We used to call this the Q&A podcast, and we were just talking about a listener that has viewed them all, right? Yeah. So, very cool.
AER spoiler.
Wow. But, yeah, so sorry about that. But, yes, and sorry for my intro, but hopefully I've redeemed it, maybe.
Welcome to this thing.
This thing that we do.
That you tuned into.
Yes, we are three pastors who love to listen to your questions, take them, and try and take you on an adventure and answer them as best we can, and take you on the twists and turns through our faith. We are here, and we are ready to get going. Are you guys ready for some? We have AER this morning. You're trying to tell me?
Yeah,
we do.
We do.
All right, then AER it up.
Time for accusations, explanations, and recantations. It's the first two.
I'll do it.
All right.
First one, I guess we can point at Blake.
Yes.
Because it's AER for you, Blake.
It says the question is related to episode 395. The question is Blake wearing black leather pants?
The answer to that question was no. But I am today. If you are watching this on YouTube, these came in our Amazon bin, which if you don't know what that is, we get rejects from Amazon back, and then
returns,
we get
not
returns. Well, returns from Amazon, and we get to give them out to our community, which is awesome. And these black leather pants were in there, so I put them on special for today,
just for spite,
just to show the viewers.
Well, it's not for spite, because maybe they were really excited that he was wearing black leather pants. Like, it could have been like, that is amazing. Blake is the most trendy of the pastors on staff.
It's true.
See, and I was having trouble with that question when I saw it, or when you told me it came in, because I was like, this is not offensive to me. I don't care. I'll wear anything, as obviously I am right now. But my wife dresses me, and I don't know if she would have been as excited to know that I was wearing black leather pants on the podcast.
Are you saying your wife told you to wear that Philly shirt today?
There's a caveat here. If I am wearing anything sports related, then you know that I dress myself. Last week I was wearing my Brazil jacket, which, yes, my wife did not dress me that day. So
well, Aaron picked out your long sleeve underneath, and you just threw the Phillies one over top.
Oh, man. She doesn't dress me every morning, I should say that. But all the clothes that are in my closet, with the exception of my sports stuff, has come from my wife's direct shopping. I do not shop for myself. I do not put my outfits together. She tells me this shirt goes with those pants, and then
that's it. Like you can only wear those pants with that shirt.
Well, no, she tells me I need to be creative,
so
and I ask for clarity, because I'm like, I don't know what you mean. Like, you saying I could wear other tops with these pants? Like, I don't know that. You just, when you buy me an outfit, that is what I wear. So that is the way my dressing goes.
I feel like we're going to get more AER on this.
Oh, yeah.
I regularly get people, especially at church, who will say, whoa, like, cool outfit, Blake. Where'd you get that? And my response is always, you need to ask my wife, because I have no clue where I got this. So, yes.
My favorite part is if they thought they saw you wearing leather pants in 395, we did a double episode. So that means you're on it for 2 episodes with fake leather pants. And now we're doing a double today. So you're at least 3 episodes in a row with leather-looking pants. But all I can think of when I hear leather pants on a guy, especially, is the Friends episode where Ross is stuck in that bathroom trying to baby powder his legs and makes the paste.
I don't know that I've ever seen an entire episode of Friends.
That's all right. You missed out.
And so I have no idea what you're talking about.
I do. But I'm hoping, like, my wife does regularly listen to the podcast. I don't think she watches, but I'm hoping she's not listening to this one.
If she's listening, she's going to turn on.
I know
go
she
just
is.
to see what
and then
you've
she's
done.
going to be like, what is happening?
Or it was her last week who saw the video and was like, Blake, are you wearing leather pants and outfit I did not sanction?
Maybe it is. Maybe that's what happened.
Awesome. We did get response as well from our listener who mentioned in their write-up last week, we were discussing their AER regarding Catholicism, and we just kind of were, out of curiosity, vocalizing, I wonder how long they've been listening to the podcast.
Yes.
And as you acknowledged in our beginning, they responded back to us as well, saying they have been here since the beginning, listened to every episode of the Q&A and Inverted Orthodoxy.
That is awesome.
All those people who say, like, who've been here from the beginning, I just appreciate the fact that they endured those years of horrible sound quality.
Yes.
So, fun story if you're fairly new. This podcast started as Kyle's idea a number of years ago. It was like, we should just do a quick podcast after the end of staff meeting where, people can ask us questions and we'll just sit around the table and ask them. And so it literally was originally one mic.
One USB mic into GarageBand on my laptop.
In the middle of a table.
Yep.
And everybody had to sit proportionally farther away from the mic based on how loudly they spoke. So Kyle and I sat across the room, and other people leaned in so that it tried to get balanced.
Totally.
How you say the audio is terrible, and I agree with probably compared to what we have today.
Yep.
But compared to other podcasts at the time, you were an early adopter, Kyle.
It was also garbage, but
two things can be true.
Yeah. But I just we apologize for that regularly, and I'm like,
the bar is much higher across the spectrum of podcasts now. I think because they're so much more widely done than they were at the time.
And the accessibility of mics.
That's what I mean. Because of that, there's been a market. So these mics came out, and they're much more affordable than the studio mics you used to have to buy in order to do good quality audio. So accessibility has come a long way.
There's a gentleman in our church who's gone back. He didn't start from the beginning. It sounds like this person started from the beginning.
Yeah.
Who's gone back and is listening to all of the old ones. And I'm like, God have mercy on your soul.
Yeah, because he would understand the quality of what it is today, and he would hear the inequality. That's not the right word, but how
lack of
quality back then, right?
Yeah.
But I'm saying this person who listened from the very beginning probably didn't realize it was lack of quality.
Turn the heat up on the pot with the frog.
Yeah, totally.
Which is actually not true.
They just think this is how it sounds.
Yeah.
And then over time, it's just sounded better, right?
Or the person who, like me, and again, you won't be able to relate to this, Kyle, is old enough that there was black and white TV, then color TV, and then TVs got larger, and then, flat screens, and then HD TV. There's been an evolution there. If you started with an HD TV and then all of a sudden to go to black and white, you'd be like, I don't need to watch this.
See, I was offended the other day. Spoiler alert. I watched the F1 movie, which is pretty awesome. But there's a scene where they go back to 1993 and show F1 footage. And it is awful. It's super grainy and it's all. And after the movie, I said to my wife, I said, TV was not that bad in 93. Come on.
It was.
And was it?
Yes.
I guess
go on YouTube and watch old sports. I guarantee you it was so bad. We didn't know any different. But if you go on YouTube and you pull up World Series 1984.
Well, I want to pull up
F1
93 and see if it actually was that bad.
Right?
Yeah.
But if you go back to 80s TV and watch it, it was...
Yeah, but 80s, 93, was it that bad?
I've been
93?
watching Boy Meets World with my kids, as I mentioned last week, and it's not terrible. It's still a 4:3 ratio instead of a 16:9, which has been irritating. But
there's probably a difference between a pre-recorded something and a live sporting event.
Yeah,
live sporting. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, it's probably been remastered to watch.
But even the original, they would have been able to have stationary cameras, and there would have been just stuff technology that would have been able to be used more in a studio than at a live sporting event.
True.
Mm-hmm.
So
we're down a rabbit hole I didn't anticipate. But yes, thank you for continuing to tune in. I'm just fascinated. I would love to even just ask a bunch more questions, but I won't. But of what the thoughts are of what you've seen in the changes in us and our style and all that. But no, thanks for responding back to that out of my own curiosity.
Speaking of which,
you're
a heretic.
Well, throwback episode.
Well, a couple of weeks ago, somebody said that they just missed that, so I thought I'd throw it out.
There you go.
I think it's typically used to say that in context, though, not just
just whipping it out.
Hey, Kyle, you're a heretic.
I was just doing it for the person
to remind you. It's been a while since I've said it.
Yeah, I was just doing it for the person who said that they liked it when there was more adversarial. So I was just you're acknowledging this person. I'm just acknowledging the AER from a few weeks ago, and so I thought I would just be a little more adversarial.
Awesome.
Speaking of adversarial, we got an interesting question.
Yeah, you can go ahead and ask this one, Castle.
Sure. Well, this one actually came out of a text thread I was having back and forth with a friend who saw something on Twitter. So the question reads, how should we interpret Dr. Kevin Young's theological perspective on Jesus' sacrifice, especially in light of the controversial idea of Jesus committing suicide? So to give that the text thread, Dr. Kevin Young is a guy on Twitter, has some really good stuff, but he's a theologian. He was speaking to somebody trying to encourage them who is struggling with suicidal thoughts. And he writes, "Don't give up. I can't imagine how hard it is to be where you are," and goes on with some great comforting words. In the responses that come from that, he then at one point states, "Jesus committed suicide, you troll," to somebody else who's being rude to him. And then the person responds to him, "No, he didn't. He was murdered." And Dr. Kevin Young responds with John 10:18, which reads this way: "No one," Jesus speaking about him laying his life down, "no one takes it from me, but I lay it down voluntarily. I have the authority to lay it down, and I have the authority to take possession of it again. This commandment I received from my Father." So they were reading through this whole Twitter thread and thought, man, there must be a question in there. So how do we deal with Kevin's take on Jesus' sacrifice as suicide?
Yeah, so this is an interesting question. So definitions matter.
Yes.
And so this is where sometimes the biggest arguments happen because two people are talking about things in different terms and they're using the same word, but they mean different things by it. So I was like, okay, let's go to the dictionary and look up the definition of suicide. So according to Merriam-Webster, suicide is the act or an instance of ending one's own life voluntarily and intentionally. So if you just take it by that definition, you could argue Jesus committed suicide.
Yep.
Where I kind of have a problem with what he's saying, and part of the issue is you're dealing with trolls on the internet, and the best way to do that, I think, is just to ignore them because you can't win an argument on the internet.
Yeah.
So technically, did Jesus commit suicide in the ending of his own life voluntarily and intentionally? Well, he didn't nail himself to the cross, so there's that. He did lay down his own life, according to John 10:10. So you could say there was an element of, and the theological implications of that verse. Or it wasn't John 10:10, sorry, whatever.
Yeah, John 14:10.
14:10.
Oh, no, 10:18, sorry.
10:18.
Yeah, I was going to say 14's Holy Spirit stuff. So
Yes.
10:18.
But 10:10 is the thief comes to steal, kill, and destroy.
yeah,
So there's an element where the theological implications of that, because Christ lived a sinless life, was he not subject to death? Was he living by a different set of rules than all of us? What was going on there, right? What is he talking about? And there's a lot of context to that. But Jesus did not, he did voluntarily and intentionally allow himself to go to the cross.
Yep.
But he didn't nail himself to the cross. So there is that.
Yep.
He did commit his spirit to the Father. So there's but to me, the deeper issue than all of that is that while you might be able to argue that technically, according to a definition, there is that, it misses, I think, the reality of what Jesus was doing on the cross, the motive behind it. And I think it also, I can appreciate that his intention in helping that person, if they were a Christian, was like a sense of Jesus being able to empathize with you in your struggles.
Very much so.
But I feel like that could go the other way and really undermine the legitimacy of people's mental health issues.
Correct.
And so that's where I struggle with that answer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It really could, I think, fuel that person's comfort in the dark thoughts that they're really fighting in that moment of like, well, look, Jesus also committed suicides and that worked out, like they were a good thing. And that is not at all something you'd want to fuel. I think we've long wrestled with this. Again, by definition, yes, you could argue Jesus committed suicide, but we've tried to give language to two different scenarios. Let's put the definition of suicide into an army context. There is somebody who gives their life to protect others, jumps on a grenade, or we've heard those stories. Somebody does something to protect others, giving their life in order to do so. And there's also the dark side of PTSD where somebody takes their life because of what they've seen, what they've experienced. Both of them are somebody in a combat scenario giving or taking of their own life with very different fruit and underlying causes. Yeah. And so we've tried to wrestle with that. We've given one the great heroic side of the story, and the other we realize the dark side that needs to be combated with. From a definition standpoint, they're both the same.
Yes.
But we see the fruit of them is much different, and the underlying cause for them is much different. So Jesus was not struggling with his value of purpose in the world, or feeling alone and therefore and feeling purposeless or needed or burdened to other people. The complete opposite. It was, according to Hebrews, for the joy that was set before him, he was going to the cross and endured the cross for our sake because that would bring great fruit. And he had a clarity of mind to do that. The disease of depression that would bring somebody to believe the world would be better without me is not the same as Jesus in his clarity realizing his sacrifice for others will bring great fruit. And so we wrestle with that. We even have the term martyr, which again, I think in a lot of ways, though not every scenario leads to self-decided death for the sake of the cause, it is again a distinction we've tried to draw. In a lot of practical ways, maybe it meets the definition of suicide, but by no means is it the same as somebody struggling with this. And so again, with Doug, I very much recognize the intent and the heart. Let's comfort somebody who's struggling with something and draw a parallel to Jesus.
And we do need to remember that Jesus does empathize with
Very
people in
much
that
so.
situation, and Jesus can be a help and an answer and in those dark times.
Totally.
But yeah, I don't think we would use the cross, Jesus going to the cross, as the example of that, right?
Totally. Well, even leading to the cross, Jesus is in a deep state of anguish.
Totally.
And asks for his friends, would you pray for me and watch with me? Like, there is a care and a burden that is carried amongst his disciples there that could absolutely, again, find some connection points to somebody struggling with suicidality.
Yeah.
But we're not going to take that to the furthest degree and say Jesus' suicide is the same. And by all means, Jesus absolutely has a deep care, and there's all beautiful parallels we can draw to this, but I just wouldn't use that word because we culturally, when we hear suicide, we attach it to that depression and a dark state somebody has lived within, and then really becomes a victim of that state to their own state of mind. Yeah. Versus Jesus is doing the complete opposite. Yeah. In my view, the fruit and the meaning of it are very different.
Yeah, we would describe one maybe as a lack of hope, whereas Jesus was giving hope.
Totally.
It's because of his giving hope, then he can empathize with and help people who have a lack of hope.
Totally.
Right?
Yeah.
In defense of Dr. Kevin Young, I think it's worth pointing out, because not everybody will be able to read what we have in front of us.
Yeah.
Like in the original thing that he writes on, is this Twitter or X?
Twitter, well, X, yeah. Now X, yeah.
He's writing to somebody who talked to him about that, and he does say, "Fight to live for me and for so many others who love you and believe your life has incredible value." He's not advocating suicide. So honestly, and then there's a gap in what we can see, and we don't know how long that gap is.
Yeah.
And so we don't know exactly how the conversation went there. So I want to just
totally.
I don't want to make it sound like we're dumping on this guy.
Yeah.
Even though we might disagree with him, that we don't know the full context of the conversation or how he arrived at that point and how long his interaction with this person lasted before he made this statement.
Totally.
So, I just want to acknowledge that.
Dr. Kevin Young says some great stuff on X as well. Yeah.
All right. I'm struggling here not to slide out of my chair in these fancy pants, but we'll move on to the next question.
You reap what you sow.
Do dogs go to heaven?
According to Disney, yes.
I would say, according to my wife, yes. She definitely believes that her dogs that she's had through her lifetime will be in heaven waiting for her.
According to Dr. Jack Van Impe, yes.
Who's Dr. Jack Van Impe?
He was a guy he's passed away now. He had a television ministry that it focused more on end times and what I think is a wrong interpretation of the book of Revelation and Daniel. And so I often watch the show just out of morbid curiosity. Kyle, you know more than anyone else.
Yes, how much you love those.
My fascination with Christian ministry TVs shows.
It's the same as some people's love of soap operas. You just have it towards bad Bible use.
So Kyle has been on the receiving end at times of when somebody says something really bad, I will rewind it and record it and then send it to Kyle just to get him all crazy. Yeah. But I just remember... This is one of the. I have no idea. The Bible doesn't answer this, and so I don't think we can have a conclusive decision on it. But so he would do his show, and in the middle he would have like if you donate to the ministry, here's what I'm offering you. And at one point, his
I know where this is going.
His thing, if you donate, was he spent and it was like a full 2-minute commercial about if he's done a lot of research, he's examined the scriptures, and he's come to the conclusion that your pets go to heaven, and it's like biblically proven that your pets go to heaven. And so if you donated to the ministry, he sent you the CDs or cassettes or whatever it was, outlining how you could know that your pets go to heaven.
Those pet indulgences is what he did.
Well, not directly, because he's not saying your donation gets them into heaven. He's
just
saying
helping
your
you understand
donation
why.
gives you assurance that they are in heaven. And so,
my gosh.
the cynical side of me was like, I struggle with the reality of your.
There's just like so much money to be made that I feel like we're missing out on this podcast.
Oh man, we could really twist the Bible for some dollars, couldn't we?
So I throw that out there because I always will remember him talking about that in this commercial. Like it was like the issue has been decided clearly. For as long as there have been people who love pets, and so for once and for all, and that was how the commercial for it was kind of painted. Like you've wondered and you've struggled. Well, here is the answer in no uncertain terms.
Wow.
You can buy this cassette or CD or whatever it is, this teaching, and you can know for sure that your beloved pet is in heaven.
Wow.
See, I have no problem with animals in heaven. Like if heaven is on earth, right, then we're coming back to earth, and everything that we believe is here, good and awesome, will still be here. That's kind of my thoughts. I just assume there'd be animals. But there's been a lot of animals on this planet for thousands, billions of years, however long this thing's been around. Like at shortest 6,000 years is still a lot of animals, right?
Yeah.
The overpopulation would be big.
Not only that, but also the recreation of the cells that have died, decomposed, gone back into some kind of fuel source, been consumed again, and are now in some other body that has now circulated that 100 times over. We're going to have some material issues.
Okay, but wait, no, you guys are missing the point. The question is
it's just pets.
It's just pets.
And
not necessarily all
specifically
animals.
just dogs.
Well, this one's dogs,
There's
but
a
I
lot
think
of
there would be cat
dogs.
lovers who would want to. And I'm not joking about this. I think this person's asking specifically about dogs. And so I think you could. There's an argument to be made that it's not necessarily every animal that's ever existed, but that as part of going to heaven, you could be reunited with a beloved animal that you loved. And I think that's a different thing than every animal that ever lived.
Just good,
and I don't know the answer
good
to it.
pets. Yes, that's it. Like not the bad ones. Like if your dog bites somebody, it doesn't get in, right? Like
You're going to pets. Oh my! It has.
so. Like we had lots of dogs on the farm growing up, and
there's some good ones,
and there was some that probably didn't make it. That's all I'm saying.
So I will. I just lost my train of thought. I just started thinking about what you just said.
I will say two things here. All of our at least my joking answers.
Kyle's got to get it straight. He's not going to let this go without it.
At the beginning, two things. One, I just realized I know there are a few families who listen to this together, and so there could be context where there's a child who has genuinely asked this question that I want to care for. So I apologize for where I have gone so far in this response. Jesus, I don't think that animals have souls and therefore won't be a part of eternity as the individual that we knew them. I believe absolutely there will be animals in the new creation. I don't think they will be the same ones that we once have had. But as you're alluding to, Blake, the love and care that has been shared amongst in creation, I believe Jesus cares for us, and so I believe there's a possibility that Jesus could redeem and do something like that, though I don't think it to necessarily be the way it all works out.
Okay, well, so this is where I was going to go before I distracted by Blake's response. For you personally, Kyle, what you just said is intriguing, because I grew up in a church setting where that was the answer to this question.
Yeah,
because as a kid, I don't know if I asked that question. Maybe I did because I had a dog
at one point. I think every kid who had a dog
but I at least heard somebody ask that question.
Yep.
And the answer that was always given was, well, no, because animals don't have souls.
Don't have souls.
So that they can't go to heaven.
Yeah.
But you're a conditionalist.
Correct.
And so I can see kind of the validity of your point, because you're saying that humans, from your eschatological view, are also not immortal.
Correct.
But if you are of the opinion, and which I can respect that position, because where in Scripture do we get the idea that humans are immortal? Life is in Christ.
We get it from Plato.
Right, but the New Testament does talk about a resurrection. To judgment and what happens after that judgment, that there is something that's going to go on. And Jesus talked about like this judgment that is all the nations coming together. That seems to at least reference some sort of resurrection to judgment.
Totally.
But not an immortality.
Correct.
And so as a conditionalist, you would say those who ultimately reject the grace and the mercy of God would be... at some point, as a final act of mercy, is how you phrased it, they will cease to exist.
Yep.
But for somebody who believes in eternal conscious torment, they have as much biblical support for the immortality of humans as they have for the immortality of animals. And so you could therefore argue, if you believe in eternal conscious torment, that humans will live forever. Why couldn't you believe in the same way that an animal would?
Because I don't think even then, to be generous to those that would hold an ECT view,
I'm not picking on them, but I'm asking for that. I grew up in an ECT church.
Wouldn't it still be the soul? Wouldn't that
that's what
still be
I was
the?
say. Like I don't think any ECT people would argue that animals have souls. We have a lot of clarity and conversation around souls within the biblical text. That is something that humans only seem to have capacity or have. That is a intangible part of us and our experience.
I'm not debating that.
And I still, as a conditionalist, believe we are and have souls.
As do I.
But it is the immortality of those souls that I do not believe in. But I think the conditionalist, just as much as the person who believes in eternal conscious torment, nobody sees the thread for an animal having a soul within Scripture. Is, I guess, where even I would have a great agreement with them. So I don't know if they really have any more to believe in that, because there's no biblical substantiation of a soul for an animal.
I'm not advocating for the position.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying, I don't know, and this is one of those things.
I don't know it's not a position you hold. I'm just curious where you're making those connection points. That's all.
Well, if the Bible doesn't make it clear that. If the Bible doesn't specifically say that humans are naturally immortal, sure, it says they have a soul. I'm not debating that. But it doesn't say that humans are immortal.
Right.
Why could not an animal? Like there's no. It's just an interesting dichotomy to me.
I think I'm catching
in the ECT argument that, because I grew up in a church that was strictly and fully ECT. But and like. Dogmatically ECT, and dogmatically, animals are not in heaven. But you don't have you're basing the immortality on the human soul.
Correct.
On just a decision that you've made. And you've made the mortality of an animal on just a decision you've made. But there's a potential to disagreement there that I just recognize in this question.
Yeah.
There's a lot to whoever asked this question, and I do think we've had some fun with the question, but I do think that there is probably somebody who's asking this question from a genuine place who cares about a dog or dogs in general.
Totally.
There are things we don't understand, and there's a mystery to things that is that we're just going to have to wait to find out as some of these things.
Yeah.
And this is where I'm like, our theology is oftentimes not actually thought through to the fullest extent because of that. Like, as an adult now, thinking back to that definitive, no, an animal will not ever be resurrected.
Yeah.
And yet, definitively, humans will all live forever, and if they don't accept Christ, they will spend eternity in conscious torment.
Yeah.
Potentially, there's a conflict there that nobody sees and nobody seems to care about and never gets addressed.
Yeah.
That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, I was catching up to your thought. If you would back it up and kind of take the wider conversation as well, death is not something present until Genesis 3, but animals are there. Mm-hmm. And so if you're holding a literalist view and a non-evolutionary view, you've got animals even were assumed to be living forever because death is not a present force within creation ever.
Yeah, I agree.
Right? And so they would have had to live forever had sin not broken into the world until the resurrection of all things.
Well, and so this is my point.
Yeah.
Like, we don't know.
Yeah.
And when people get definitive about things that we don't know, it bugs me.
Yeah.
Especially when when two definitive positions potentially conflict with each other.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you haven't thought this through.
Yeah.
The potential conflict in your own theology.
And they're just pulling in the Platonic thought of the human soul is immortal, and then reading that into every passage in Scripture. So because humans have souls, they are the only ones that will be resurrected past this broken system that we had, but animals would have lived forever had we not messed it up. But since they've died, they're not coming back. Is the chain of thought that gets assumed into the whole text.
But that's us assuming something into the text
that's what I'm saying.
That's not in the text. Yeah. And that's my point in this thing that I was talking about. That
I caught up to what you were saying.
As a conditionalist, I could see your argument at least has consistency.
Right.
But the dogmatic ECT and animals know, there's a potential inconsistency in your belief.
And so my thought towards Jesus loving us and enjoying creation and wanting to give that to us, I think could be. I remember hearing N.T. Wright at one point say, I'm not a universalist, but God might be. I'm like, I don't believe dogs go to heaven, but maybe Jesus does, and can recreate that for us. So by no means is that off the table as a potential thing that Jesus could choose to do for us. I just don't see the support for it in my view of Scripture.
But that's where Scripture doesn't tell the whole story.
Correct.
Of what
So that's
will
what I'm
be.
saying, right? There could be things beyond us, and Jesus could choose to give that wonderful, good gift. But I don't have the assurance of that as I read Scripture as presented.
I think, too, there's always like the pastoral response. I probably said this on this podcast before, but I remember being taught this in some theological class or wherever I was, that like, your debate about heaven and hell and your debate about all these things is not what you're going to be saying to people at a funeral, right? Like, Aunt Betty's looking down on me or she's gone to heaven or whatever. There's going to be a very different response. If I'm talking to a little kid about dogs going to heaven, I'm not going to be having the discussion you guys just had, right?
Totally.
So,
totally.
Yes.
Awesome.
All right. Next question. Just wondering, do you guys as pastors have people who keep you accountable and have people who speak into your personal lives? If yes, have you dealt with critique or concerns about your personal life? Have they been valid or ill-advised?
Well, I will answer the last question first. Have they been valid or ill-advised? Yes. People speak into our lives, and sometimes it's valid and sometimes it's ill-advised. And as a pastor, one of the things I've learned to do is to weigh the message, not the messenger. Mm-hmm. Because there have been times that somebody who I know has an axe to grind with me for something that I'm not going to, that I'm going to allow them to have that axe to grind, but I'm going to not take responsibility for it. Yep. But has brought a concern, and it's been valid.
Yep.
And there have been people who are my friends who at times have said things that I'm like, maybe that's not right. So I will say yes to both of those.
Yeah, that's a good
and
way to
I
put that.
always try to weigh the message, not the messenger. We typically weigh the messenger and not the message.
Yeah.
And so I will start with that. I do have an answer for this, but I'll let somebody else go first. So, unless you want me to go first.
You're going. Feel free to go.
Sure. I have people who speak into my life. I have people who keep me accountable. I actually had a conversation with somebody yesterday about some areas of my life and said, for the next little while, I need you to keep me accountable on this thing. The two of you speak into my life regularly. I keep a pretty open book with you guys. I submit myself to the board and also my wife. So a wide range of people who, as well as beyond that, I have some pastors, friends who are pastors and ministry leaders who have a very, hold this role very intentionally in my life. And when I get together with them, they're very lovingly prying into the recesses of my soul, to which I could just lie or I could answer honestly.
Yep.
And so I choose to answer honestly.
Yeah. You want me to jump in? You jump in?
Sure. Go ahead.
Okay. I know depending on where this question's coming from, some churches or traditions have like built-in systems for this. We don't really have a built-in or assumed system, at least that I'm aware of, other than meeting with our direct report. So me meeting with Doug, that's built into our way of things working here. And you've covered a lot of time for my 11 years that I've been here to do that, which has been really meaningful to me. But beyond that, it's been something that I've really sought out. And I've got, my wife for sure is one that I've been very aware of. You don't want to make your one person everything. And I think that has sometimes been assumed or heard through the lines of Christian communication, is that your wife will be your best friend, your accountability partner, your drinking buddy or gaming, all that, whatever it may be. I don't know, making up all the different roles that one person has often fulfilled in a lot of worlds. And I've tried not to make that assumption. She's aware of everything without having to carry everything, is how I've really tried to live it out. So I've sought people that are outside of our church that can speak to my life without any of those crossing of lines if it was ever necessary. So I've got a friend in Ontario who we speak regularly. For a while, we had it set on the calendar every Monday night. We'd have a connection point. We haven't followed through with that as often as we would like, but it's regular point of conversation. Other pastors across Canada as well that I keep in less regular touch with. But one of the ones that I've really been convinced by is pastoring people I need to be. And this is different than the paradigms that I know my parents pastored amongst. I need to be open and receiving from the community I'm pastoring amongst.
Yes, absolutely.
So I've been accused, not in the lightest way possible, of sometimes probably being too open.
Yeah.
Where I don't really hold anything back. Like there's people within our church who know absolutely everything I may or would struggle with and will continue to do that, because I cannot think I'm above the people I'm pastoring, but I'm being fed amongst the people and with the people as the Spirit moves in our church. I have a unique position as a pastor getting to help lead in certain aspects of how the Spirit is moving amongst us, but that is no different. So I've really tried to engage the community that I call our people to as something I also engage in within our church. So then all the systems that then carry with that, our board would have full right to speak into anything if they're concerned about that. But there's just friends that I call them genuinely that amongst our church that would hold those roles. At times, I have not dealt with critique or concern well, at times getting defensive, and that was much, I think that's traditional for a younger guy. And this church has had both the privilege and burden of watching me grow up for the last 11 years, where there have probably been times where I've been critiqued and quickly defended. But again, jump into some D. Willie, as he's been referenced, Dallas Willard. The sign of a mature Christian is one who's rarely offended. And when I first
do you think Dallas Willard would have been offended?
I don't think so.
By being called D. Willie?
Yeah.
D. Willie?
No,
there's a podcast I listen to, and they reference him as that.
Okay,
I find it funny. But I really tried to embody that. Like there's truth, there's concern, or there's pain, or maybe I'm not even the issue. I'm just the face to, or the one who picked the scab on something that was deeper. So I've tried to come with a lot more just gentleness towards any time I've had that critique, both realizing I'm a deeply flawed, fallible human. So I know there's something that can be spoken to in my life, and also realizing there's pain and hurt and misunderstanding on the other side. I can be quick to speak, and that has often, as you've literally witnessed on this podcast, sometimes needed clarity or things like that. So I can hear and try to grow in the ability to recognize that, so I can respond to it. So yeah, there's been combinations of purely ill-advised, purely valid, and a lot of the mix of both is spoken into my life. And I really, as Doug's articulated, tried to just weigh it out and sift through what the Spirit would say to me through those things.
To just kind of echo what you said, a quote that I know the three of us all appreciate and buy into, Eugene Peterson. You quote D. Willie, I'll quote Eugene Peterson. The biblical fact is there are no successful churches. There are instead communities of sinners gathered before God week after week in towns and villages all over the world. The Holy Spirit gathers them and does his work in them. In these communities of sinners, one of the sinners is called pastor and given a designated responsibility in the community. The pastor's responsibility is to keep the community attentive to God. It is this responsibility that is being abandoned in spades. That is such a powerful quote. But I remember the first time I read it being like, yes, one of the sinners is called pastor.
Yeah.
And just going, that's true. I'll speak for the three of us because I know us well enough to know that we all recognize the reality of the fact that we are fallible human beings who have been entrusted with a sacred responsibility that is a great honor, but that comes with great responsibility.
Yep.
Yeah, I'd agree with everything you guys have said. I have the wonderful blessing of working at this church and being on staff with not only you guys, but with Laura Lee and Laura. And I find great accountability in that. I try to be as open with all of you as I can. I appreciate you, Doug, as a friend from years ago. And I've always referred to you, well, not always, but I think of you as a wise friend. And I remember at one point you coming to me and saying, you're like, I need some accountability in my life. Like you were just talking about your church role as the pastor, and you're a strong leader, and you just have a personality that probably people like to be around you, but also will just fall in line. And I remember you saying, I need some accountability, and you sought that out. And I thought, that's wise. And I've thought about that in my own life, gone, okay, I need that as well. So I've sought all the people that you guys have talked about. I have friends outside of this church. I have people within the community. I have my wife. I always recognize, and you already said that, Doug, at the beginning of what you said, accountability only goes as far as I'm going to be honest. That's the biggest one, right? Yeah. So, trying to be as honest as I can with the people who ask the questions and, hold those roles in my life. Critique is hard. I remember being critiqued as a youth pastor once and being really angry about it until I did some thinking. Again, Doug, you always say that we should think. So I did some thinking, and I was like, well, if they're mad about what the youth ministry is doing and I'm leading the youth ministry, like who else would they be mad at? Right? Like, I thought maybe it was unfair, but I was like, yes. So that changed my thinking on critique a little bit. But personal critique about my personal life, yes, obviously, as you said, as we get older, hopefully we get better at listening and going, is there truth to this, right? Yeah. In my own life, I think sometimes people will come with this, like, this is the problem, in your life, like pointing it directly at me. And I can quickly go, no, like you guys are missing that so poorly. Yeah. But then trying to have the wisdom to go, but how come they're saying that? Yeah. What is the little truth that is there? Yeah. And they don't even know. Correct. Right? What am I got going on in my life that I need to take care of, right? Yep. So
I will say that aging process is not natural. Just getting older does not make you more receptive to critique.
Well, no, probably not. Probably not.
But it is something that cannot be rushed. I really like the analogy you used a long time ago, Doug, of you can't bake a cake faster because you turn the oven up. Like, it is a continued life of openness to the Spirit, speaking directly to us, but also through others. that is the fruit that over time will do that. Like it is not a process that can be rushed. So it takes both time and openness.
Yes, you have to put the cake in the oven too.
Correct. Right. So you've got to do both for that to happen. One other one that I have only done once that I'd really like to pursue, so I want to make honorable mention of it, is finding a spiritual director. And that's something I'd really like to regularly add as a rhythm of my life, which is just fantastic. Again, somebody designated listening to the Spirit helping you do that was a fantastic experience that would definitely recommend and want to pursue in my own life.
I was going to say on the spiritual, like, yes, I think a spiritual director is great, but I'd say all of us would agree on this, I believe, but the accountability too of like just doing soul care for so long in my own life lately, going, I want to keep really short accounts and be very aware of my soul.
Yep.
Because there are things that we as people so easily dismiss or just push out of the way and never deal with. Whereas I'm just thinking of a weird one here. There was a moment, I think I spoke to Laura mostly about this, but there was a few weeks in a row where I was coming to church on Sunday morning and I was discontent driving here.
Yeah.
And I was worried, this sounds weird, but I was worried, Doug, that you were going to catch me doing something. And I don't even know what that was, but I was like, you know, it had happened a few Sundays in a row and I just dismissed it because that's what we do as people. And all of a sudden, like, maybe it was the third or fourth Sunday, I was like, what is going on? Right? I was like, this is something that obviously is not right.
Yeah.
And I do remember coming in immediately, Laura was sitting at her desk and talking to Laura about it. And then praying about it.
Yeah.
I don't even remember what it was.
I want to know what you were doing.
Yeah, that's.
I'm wearing leather pants secretly. Doug's gonna catch me.
I don't even remember what happened, but obviously by praying and you know doing some introspection, spending time with God, that is always my best one when my soul is not right.
Yeah.
It went away. So whatever it was, I can't tell you. I can't remember. I'm not trying to be secretive. I just don't remember. But just trying to be aware of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, the one question I didn't answer, if yes, have you dealt with critique or concerns about your personal life? I think like you, Kyle, sometimes well, sometimes not so well, depending on a multitude of factors, including my attitude in that season of life.
And then I try to take the critique of how I took the critique and process that and self-reflection.
But sometimes much later.
Yeah.
Like
Yes.
There's been seasons where I've been having a bad attitude about lots of things, and God's had to revisit that critique weeks or months later and be like, hey, your heart wasn't open to hear this at the time, but it's still valid, and we need to now talk about it because that person was actually bringing something to your attention, like in a good way, and you pushed it aside and ignored it, and we're like, you have no idea.
Totally.
So let's now have a conversation about that. So yeah.
And there's so much to be said about integrity. My wife and I were just having a conversation about this past week. Just situations and scenarios in our lives that we all know, you know, when people get caught or something comes out. And, we were just discussing how those things never start intentionally, right? It's always the little things that you get away with or you get a taste of, and then it becomes something. And I was telling my wife, I'm like, it's been on my heart. I need to have a discussion with my kids about this. I just feel like there's always these things that I'm like, when next time I get my kids together, this is one, because this is just one of those ones where, your integrity matters so much. And the cost of having a situation in your life that is not integral can be really bad.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I'll quote D. Willie as well. We are creatures who are endlessly becoming.
Yeah.
Right? We never stop becoming something. We don't get a choice in that. The only thing we get a choice in is what we are becoming. We are constantly being formed by every action that we take. So if we are intentional about taking the right actions and doing the right things, we can be formed into the image and the character of Christ. If we are casual about our life and just allow all kinds of things into our life that shouldn't be, they are malforming us into something other than what God has called us to become.
Totally.
Right on. Well, we got to get out of here.
Yep.
We are doing another time warp and all the rest as we're going to record 2 podcasts today. But
I feel like this one started off with a time warp by you saying, welcome to the Q&A.
Yeah, it did. Throwback episode. So we are glad that you joined us for Inverted Orthodoxy podcast. And we welcome you to not answer. Well, you can answer questions if you want. That's what AER is for. But ask more questions by visiting invertedorthodoxy.com, checking out our website. Give us a like and a review everywhere that you listen to this, and we will see you guys next